Welcome to Two Peas in a Podcast, a series of conversations with people in our community about their journey through life. Grab a cup of tea and join us for our chat.
Episode 6, Faith, Science, and Memories from the Past.
Welcome back to Two Peas in a Podcast. This is episode 6, Simon.
Episode 6.
I'm honored this evening that we're with Dr. Lui Fernandez, who's a parishioner here at Stella Maris Parish. Simon, how was the last episode for you?
Father Alray, such a treasure. It's unfortunate, that he's leaving our parish, but I kind of envy Divine Mercy because they're getting a true gift.
They're getting a true gift, absolutely.
He is a man of great faith, great gentleness, great peace, and really great joy. And his faith expresses itself in such a powerful way, but yet not with loud words, but with peaceful action, with constant love. And he will be sorely missed.
He will be, yeah. And he's become a dear friend of mine too. So I'm happy he's only going to Dartmouth. It's just across the bridge. So hopefully we'll still be able to play pickleball together.
Yes, that's true. You guys will have to make sure that you keep your pickleball tradition going.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, Simon, over to you to let's begin this conversation with dear Louis.
Indeed. So first up, Louis, thank you so much for being on our podcast.
You're welcome.
It's really great to have you here, and we're looking forward to hearing some of your experiences through life. The way we've started many of our other episodes is asking what is a deceptively difficult question. So I'll ask it to you. Who is Louis?
So Louis was born in a non-Christian community, and it was a small ghetto of Catholics that seemed to express a lot of faith. And so, people talk about saying prayers and stuff here, and I hear sermons about it, but there it was a fact of life. And
It's okay, Louis. Good man.
So in our family, we're only 4 of us. But we used to say the rosary every day.
Mm-hmm.
And Mother was the one who would ring the bell. 8 o'clock was rosary. After rosary was dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I came to the States to do my post-graduation and then went back, the rosary was still intact. So there was a lot of faith, especially with everything that is happening around you.
So it was a faith lived out in an environment that sounded pretty tumultuous.
Yeah.
What without giving away your age, Louis, what time frame would this be?
I'm going to be 80 this month.
80?
Okay, well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow.
So the
So would this have been like post-partition, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born pre-partition, but I would have been a youngster by then.
Yeah.
And the initially, you could practice your religion, and then came the different problems. for instance, at one time at Christ the King procession, they used to have a procession around the street, around the church, around the houses, and we were getting stoned. So that stopped, and then I don't know what year it was. I can't remember, but had to do something with Fatima. So I don't know if it was, a certain anniversary of the Fatima apparition, that the priest would started almost like a novena, where they would take the statue of Our Lady of Fatima and move, say, from my house to somebody else's house, and she would be there, venerated overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that happened, and it was difficult because, with the community being not Christian, you're being ostracized or stoned or whatever.
Yeah.
But they continued to do it. The discrimination was so bad that you could hardly get ahead at this time of the birth of that country, so that for instance, I'll tell you there are many subtle discriminations, but I'll tell you about the blatant discrimination that happened with me and my religion. So this was the final exam of my MD degree, and the professor, we had the oral exam sitting like this, and the professor asked me what my name was. And I said what my name was. And they said, "Christian," with such disdain. And I just said yes, and I was sweating by then because, this is my final exam. And they just said, "We're going to give him 0.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess for listeners who may not know the history, I believe, of that period in India. So I think it was in 1947 the partition occurred, and what, as I understand it, what happened is that there was a Muslim majority section that was created, which is now Pakistan.
Pakistan and Bangladesh.
And then there was, to your point, Rob, there was, I think, West Pakistan and East Pakistan, and then East Pakistan eventually became Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And during that period, there was a tremendous movement of people between areas which were now Pakistan and areas which were now India. And so there was, tremendous upheaval that occurred during that time, with families having to be forcibly moved from one part of the country to another based on their religion. So physically having to give up where they had probably been for generations, because they were no longer in an area which was representative of their religion. And so, as I understand it, it was a hugely difficult and brutal time for people to experience. And I think I don't think anyone who wasn't there could can really understand what it was like.
And it's incredible.
And to add to that, if you roamed around with a cross, you were saved from both parties. They never touched you. So which was amazing. So the Catholics and the Christians at that time were not touched in either country that formed. But my mother told me that there were both Muslims and Hindus living in that community with us, and they just slaughtered each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
even though they knew each other.
Yeah.
They just slaughtered.
And here we are now, Louis, in this materially comfortable, complacent part of the world. And we're in my little parish office here, having a conversation, and yet I can see and hear in your voice how raw these memories are for you because of the intensity of what you experienced. How did this form the young man who left this community and went on to be a hematologist and a highly respected hematologist?
I must ask too, what is hematology?
So hematology is diseases of the blood. So there are benign diseases like anemia, hemophilia, and so on, and malignant diseases like leukemia, lymphoma, bone marrow transplant. And so what happened was, of course, this experience of a zero on my mark, there was no way I could stay there. I couldn't get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because although my marks were great during the sessions, but once it was lowered down by 1 mark to 0, the whole average went down, so I couldn't get anywhere, so I had to leave. So I tried at that time to come to either the States or Canada, and but at that time every hospital that replied said that they weren't accepting foreign medical graduates.
Yeah.
And then my mother saw me distraught one day, and she said, "What are you looking at?" I said, "I can't get admission." And she said, "Apply to that." And it was Our Lady of Lourdes. And so I said, "Mom, I won't get it." And I applied and I got.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That is amazing.
Wow.
So, sorry, this was a medical school or as a...
Hospital as an intern.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where was that located?
New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you traveled all the way to New Jersey for your internship.
When I came, I knew nobody. I didn't know the culture.
Yeah.
And I was alone. Like, now these people come and they have their families here. I had nobody.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then I did my internship there, and then did my residency and fellowship and training in hematology. And then I had to leave the States because exchange visitors had to leave. And they couldn't, they had to leave for a period of 2 years. Now it is 7 years before you could apply for permanent residency. So I said, we'll just go to Canada. I wasn't married then, and I was Ginny. And I said, we'll go to Canada and then for 2 years and we'll come back. Well, we never moved back.
Yeah.
Well, we're awfully glad you stayed, Louis.
Indeed. Where did you first move to in Canada after New Jersey?
Yeah, right here.
Right, you moved to Halifax from New Jersey. Wow.
Yeah, so what happened was I two places that called me. One was Dalhousie and the other was Queens. And I knew some people when I was in Philadelphia. That's where I did my residency and hematology fellowship. I knew some people from here. So I figured, well, let's go to a place that I know somebody.
Yeah.
So we came here, and Ginny and I got married here. Monsignor Murphy married us at St. Agnes's Church. And then we have two kids. Both of them are adults now. Nicole, of course, is in Saskatoon. You met her and her husband.
Yeah.
I don't think you met Nicole. And she has one kid. And then I have Daniel, who comes with me now and then.
Yeah.
But he always wants to leave early. So I say, at least I can bring him to church, you know. So I bring him to church. And
I'm assuming it's the same one, but I was also married by a Monsignor Murphy here in Halifax.
Right.
Could well have been the same guy.
Yeah.
So, like when you made that first move to New Jersey, you know, you're in a new country, a new experience. You know, you weren't sure what it was going to be like. You weren't sure, you know, what the future really held for you.
That's right.
But I'm sure you felt that, you know, had a chance to progress. You know, a chance to do what you unfortunately weren't able to do back in India. Did you find that there was a faith community for you in New Jersey that you were able to join with?
Yeah, because Our Lady of Lourdes is a Catholic hospital, and then run by nuns, and so they were very polite and very, very compassionate, and they couldn't realize that I had come all the way from there, and I didn't have anybody, and so on. So, and the faith community there was the local church. And then we came here, and so here at first I was at the one down St. Mary's. What's the church there that was at St. Mary's?
Canadian Martyrs?
Canadian Martyrs.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to go there to Canadian Martyrs because Nicole was baptized and confirmed there. Daniel was baptized there, confirmed at the Basilica. And so we used to go there, and then, but we were living in an apartment, and then we came and we bought our house on Baker's Drive, and that's when we went to St. John the Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
So we were parishioners there for, I don't know, maybe 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and then St. John the Baptist just evaporated under us.
Mm-hmm.
So I came here.
Okay.
And we're awfully glad you did.
Indeed.
Has the experience from, you know, when you first, let's say, came to Halifax, you know, and you started your time at the hospital, but also with St. John the Baptist and that community, how would you say that, you know, that changed during those 40 years? Like, did you see a lot of change in the people, a lot of change in the community during that time?
From St. John the Baptist to here?
No, like from when you first came to St. John the Baptist to when it merged with Stella Maris during that time.
Yeah. So the St. John the Baptist, they were also very welcoming and so on. But I don't think they ever realized that they were a close-knit community and that they never extended themselves to other people. And we spoke about this at one of the town hall meetings, because they were saying how they're so welcoming and this and that, and another person, myself, we got up and we said, I've been coming to this church for how many ever years, and I know just a few handful people. And these are the people who I know because I've been on these committees. And while I was there, I was parish chair, council of chair, and I was on so many subcommittees, but I could never get myself, I don't know what it is. It's this close-knit community that never let you into their surroundings.
Yeah. Did you find a different experience now at Stella Maris?
To be truthful, I find Stella Maris is becoming very clickish.
Yeah.
So there seems to be an African community, Filipino community, and then the rest of us. And in fact, the last time when they had that, it was a Filipino celebration of
Santo Niño in January.
Like yeah. And again, it was all Filipinos. They were trying to engage the rest of the community, but I don't think the community wanted any part of it. Because I think I went down and I was the only person, I think, in the hall after the celebrations. So.
I appreciate your honesty there.
So I guess
I don't know if you feel that, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, so I mean, it speaks to the fact that we want to celebrate the diversity of experience that people,
that's right,
that people have from their cultures, from perhaps their family background, etc. But we need to make sure that it's done in a way which everybody feels, that they are able to take part in, I guess.
And that's the challenge of that. The intent is to make it open to everyone as we celebrate different cultures. But how people receive it is how people receive it. I can't tell you that you were welcomed if you didn't feel welcomed. You're right. Yeah.
And I guess, there is a bit of a natural tendency, and you may have felt it yourself when you first came to New Jersey. There's a natural tendency to kind of seek out the familiar, seek out perhaps other people from your area, other people perhaps from your culture.
Yeah, there was nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
There was nobody from my area in New Jersey.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia, there was some.
Right. But I guess when you look at perhaps the experience of a recently arrived Canadian, there's always that search for perhaps a connection to the familiar. Once you come to a new area, so I think part of what you're saying is that we need to, recognize that desire for the familiar, but also encourage everyone to experience each other's cultures and to be open about sharing, sharing the different experiences together in a way that people do feel welcomed.
Yeah.
Louis, because now we're talking about the life of a parish, the way you started this conversation came from the innermost being of who you are, with love and respect for your mother and for your upbringing. How do we in this materialistic world, how do we get people, because we all have that in us, it's all there somewhere. How do we tap into that? Or do you have any commentary about the lack of it in our current culture?
I don't know if if other immigrants, to Canada have this similar feeling that I'm expressing, or is this just me? It's a good question. Like, how do you tap into this thing?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult question to answer.
Yeah.
Perhaps a different question.
Yeah.
Have you been back to India?
The last time I was there was 1970, so a long time ago.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
So my parents came here,
Yeah.
immigrated here. My dad died here, so he's buried in Sackville.
Mm-hmm.
And when he died, my mother and my sister were here. My sister didn't like living in Canada at all.
No.
So she went back, and my mother followed her, of course.
Yeah, okay.
And so since then, my mother has died.
Yeah.
Because I think, there's this kind of constant pull that we all feel for home. It's that salmon spawning type of reaction, and like yourself, people that have been away from their home for decades, like 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
Still, if you ask them where is home, they'll talk about somewhere else, and I've rambled on about this many times with many different people, but I find the way in which home is identified is really fascinating. Like if you think about the question of where is home, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people will say, well, where was I born? Like, where was I born is home. Where is my family, perhaps? That's home. But some people have a much more fluid concept of home. And so, somebody who perhaps moves again to a different country, early in life and builds a life in a new country, and raises a family in a new country, for them, that becomes home, and
for me, that's not home anymore.
Yeah.
Especially, the way we were treated earlier on, and with really no. In 1970, when I went back with the intention of maybe practicing,
Mm-hmm.
and there was no place.
Right.
Yeah. So there's no place.
And that was still because of religious discrimination.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So,
So what is home for you?
Halifax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I got married here, my children are born here, and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
You've enjoyed your life here in Canada?
Yes, very much
Yeah.
so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's true though that your past, as painful as it was, it's inescapable. It's part of you, and so I'm sure your faith has also been molded and shaped by those experiences, again, as painful as they were. And so it talks a bit about the idea of suffering as being formative, that I think we've talked about in other episodes, that we don't want anyone to suffer. God does not want anyone to suffer, but we have this kind of shaping, or this molding of our faith that comes through suffering, that really unfortunately can't be achieved any other way, in the same way. And so I'm wondering if, the suffering that you experienced is kind of caused you to treasure your faith more than somebody who never had to suffer for it, or is never discriminated because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you say that, again, the suffering of the past has made your faith more precious to you?
I mean, I would think so, but at the same time, you're asking a scientific person to make comparisons, and science, and unfortunately, I follow hard science, and I don't follow science that is, the soft science, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you tell me to make those comparisons of that soft science, I will not make it because I don't know what is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to give me 100 people with this experience, 100 people with that experience. You see, that's the problem that I find with are in the scientific field and those who are in the soft field. And like I did hematology, I'll just diverge a little. I did hematology, but then when I came here, I became division head. And I formed the division of hematology here. And I was division head for 18 years. And then during that time, I had to recruit people and to the academic department at Dalhousie. And then when you're recruiting people, and then when you're going to conferences and talks and so on, people who just come up and have an opinion are shot down.
Right. Show me the data.
Show me the data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've been born and trained. So I find it very difficult when somebody asks me to do this comparison.
Yeah.
And I find it difficult even when I talk to people, anyone, and they say, oh, this is better than that. And I say, how do you know? It's just their opinion. It's nothing more than that.
No, this resonates with me. I'd like to leverage your experience in this a little bit. Louis, I'm a priest in the church. I was assigned to this parish shortly after it came into being, this new parish of Stella Maris.
Mm-hmm.
And I dare say, even 3 years into this, I spend perhaps 50% of my time doing administration, management kind of stuff.
Right.
And I find that my pastoral life is built around all of that. So, for example, and I say this with not 1 ounce of whining whatsoever, given what Christians around the world have gone through and are going through, what you and your family have gone through. This week has been extremely busy because of some pastoral demands in the parish, and the administrative load doesn't let up. So with your experience, I can see your faith. I can see how it has sustained you in such beautiful ways. What do you have to say to me, a priest in the church, in the year 2024, in this materialistically comfortable world that seems to be going off its rocker? And we're materially rich, we're spiritually impoverished. And as a priest in the church, in your opinion of these times of suffering, where should we be putting our focus? Where should the church, where should church leadership, where should I be putting my focus?
I would think more on what we've already spoken, and that is if your focus is going to be this parish, to try and amalgamate the parish more than what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not easy. And I found that out when I was growing the division, that there are certain cliques that want to stay here and there. And there was this clique of Nova Scotia versus Ontario and so on. And you had to just break that down. And it worked. It's funny. It worked when I was division head. As soon as I stepped down from division head and the new division head came, I don't know what happened between him and these other people, but the people who are not from Nova Scotia left. And I was trying to build, I felt that this was an, inbred hematology practicing group, and I wanted to get some group from the outside. And I think I succeeded for a while it went down. The one who's there now, he's been trying very hard to get this thing going. And the people don't realize it, but when they have people from outside, there are different ideas that come together. And one thing that you guys might not be privy to, but is the bone marrow transplant. They are now doing, transplants in Halifax that initially we had to send people to Boston, and it costs something like 2-3 million per person.
Wow.
And it's costing 25% of that. And it was started by somebody not from here, but from outside.
Yeah.
And everybody else is now benefiting it. And now there are graduates from here who've joined that program.
Tremendous work.
Yeah. So you have to bang your head against the wall there.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you have to try and let me put it to you. You don't find that the community here is clickish?
So, because I know so many people who may be of different cliques that I'm not aware of, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I can tell you that it's obvious to me when we go downstairs for adult faith formation or whatever, I see the Africans sitting with the Africans, the Nova Scotians sitting with the Nova Scotians, and the Filipinos with the I see that.
Yeah.
And I assume that is just relationships of friendship and being with who you know. I personally, again, I'm an unfair person to ask. I'm not experiencing this parish as clickish, but I would probably be the last to know unless various cliques complain to me about something. Yeah.
Yeah. I may be the first.
Indeed. I believe you are the first specifically to talk about the cliquish nature of it. Yeah.
So, Louis, you've had a very long and successful medical career, a very distinguished one. You've talked about how a lot of it was, involved in research of various capacities and so on. During that time, has there been a challenge to amalgamate science and faith together for you? Like in our postmodern world, we're often encouraged to completely separate science and faith, and we're almost asked to consider them incompatible. Can you talk a bit about how you have made them compatible in your life?
So when you take a patient to a bone marrow transplant, he or she is a patient who has some disease. The disease is in remission. Then he or she is like me, normal. And then you give them the transplant. So you take them from normal to the edge of death. And they either make it or they don't. And that percentage is getting higher than people who make it than they don't. But when I first started, 40% of them didn't make it. So during that time, you almost have to involve faith, especially with the specific patients that you have. I forget the name. He was very useful chaplain for us, the tall guy.
Oh, David McGinley.
David McGinley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was, very useful. So he would meet with everybody. Some people would throw him out right away, but most would listen to what he had to say.
Why is faith and science not separate for you?
Oh, I think because it's probably, the upbringing that I had. and I think that's the upbringing that I had played a large role.
And Louis, here you are in our Sunday liturgies, regularly coming to the altar to take a ciborium of the Blessed Sacrament and to offer it to many in the assembly.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
I felt that I had to do something other than social, shall we call.
Yeah.
And I still remember the first time I went to do that, distribute the Holy Eucharist, was the time when Iraq was invaded and the war started. And I said, boy, I thought this was going to be the end of the world at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I better do something. So it's mainly distribution of Holy Communion.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do that, go to the old age home that's torn down now on Alton Drive.
Yeah.
So I used to go there with Sister Martin.
Yeah.
And I also went to a few homes.
Yeah.
But once you start giving Holy Communion especially to the people in the old age homes, and they're just dying to see you. They're waiting for you to come every Sunday.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I was saying, when you took these patients to the bone marrow transplant, it's almost to death. And when I'd go to make rounds on them, I'd be so afraid,
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things from our conversation that we had with Monica McNamara when she talked about, she said that oftentimes the medical community sees death as a failure, that something as, you failed in some way and the patient has died.
Right.
But she found that, when folks came to accept that death was part of the process and that there was a focus on the person making a comfortable journey into death, I guess, that there was a different outlook, perhaps. So a palliative care doctor, for example, knows that their patient will die, and they have to help that person through that process.
Yeah.
So did you find in your training and in your practice that your understanding of death changed?
Oh, I just felt it was inevitable. It would either happen now or later. It's a horrendous treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, from normal to, to accept that both from the patient's point of view and the physician's point of view.
Yeah, because you're not only, providing the treatment, the course of treatment, you're also journeying with them through that experience.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm sure there have been many people who, you've probably seen how their faith has adjusted the way in which they have coped with this experience.
Yeah.
People that have probably borne their infirmities, with a certain amount of the solace of the faith that they have.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of people that kind of have stood out for you who have benefited from their faith during their treatment?
So there are quite a few, who when they knew those percentages were so bad, They said I have to make peace with my Savior.
Louis, how has faith informed your practice over the years?
Well, I'm lucky I'm out of it now because this maid would have gotten to me.
Yeah.
But when I was in practice, it was mainly the abortions, because I forget the numbers, but the QE2, there were hundreds and hundreds of abortions being performed. I didn't subscribe to that.
Do you find, like, in your medical training, especially probably as you became more and more specialized in the field of hematology, do you find that there was a distance that formed between the person and their disease? So in other words, as medicine becomes, branches of medicine become more and more focused on, let's say, this particular part of the person's condition, that there's a risk of them just becoming like the numbers on the chart rather than the person themselves.
Yeah, so that is happening to an extent in bigger institutions, because you're BMT number 1, you're 2, you're 10, you're 26, and then you make rounds and you say 6 and 10 died. So, okay. There's no empathy, sympathy, nothing. But whether you have 2 or 3 BMT patients to look after, or whether you have 30, there are only 24 hours in the day, and the 2 or 3 can occupy you as much as 30 can. So so there is more compassion, I would think, in the smaller groups.
What would you say to a young physician who's starting out in this field today? What would be your advice to them?
Well, it would matter a lot as to what he wants to do in hematology. So it would all depend. There are so many things now. Yep. Then there would be some who would say, I don't want to take care of the malignant stuff because that gets me down. So I just want to do the benign stuff. And then some would be quite happy to do malignancy and BMT. So it depends on what they want to do. And depending upon what their nature and compassion was, if you had somebody who had no compassion and didn't care who he saw, I'd probably tell him to become a surgeon.
Yeah. Very good.
I'm now expecting a lot of comments from surgeons on this particular podcast.
All the surgeons in the parish.
Yeah.
I was wondering, just to draw upon your comment there around folks wanting to go with benign conditions rather than malignant conditions, and of course in your line of work in medicine, you're encountering people who are sick, people who are dying. And so, I'm sure there's that compassion fatigue that can set in so easily. And actually both of your guys' professions, where you're like, I can't give any more of myself because I'm just drained.
That's why I'm retired.
Yeah. I was wondering, we talked a bit about how, sometimes patients almost have to become a number on your chart because you have so many of them. Do you find that also that's part of, trying to protect yourself from the emotional reality of the fact that this person is sick, this person is suffering, and it's not something which, is done consciously, but, as a protective measure, you have to separate yourself from that person in order to just not burn out.
Yeah, so that's I think what happens to these people who want to see just benign. They don't want this business of death and dying almost every week and talking to somebody. And so So that's weeded out pretty early in the training program.
Do you find that, you have to put that shield down at some point and let yourself be vulnerable and, and pray to God for the strength to pick that shield up again, pick that clipboard up again and go back in to minister, to people and their physical needs? Like, was that something which was a source of strength for you during your
I did
practice?
that every time when I went on call.
Yeah. Lui, thank you for giving us a glimpse into your life, into your heart, into your love of medicine and your love of God. I wanted you to be on this podcast because I see your faith, and I have so much respect for you and your participation in the life of this parish. And I really, really appreciate your observations.
Thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, Louis. This was a real privilege to be part of this conversation. And we encourage everybody who's listening to be part of that conversation too, to leave us a comment, and reach out and talk about how, you perhaps have experienced the merging of science and faith together in your life. We do want to hear from all of you and encourage everybody to be part of our conversation. Please make sure that you also subscribe to Father Rob's channel. There's a lot of great content. Click that like button and click that notification bell to make sure that you get notified when our next episode comes out. Father and myself and Louis are all part of a community here at Stella Maris, and we encourage everyone to learn more about what's happening in our Stella Maris community by visiting us at stellamaris.halifax.com. You can also like us on our Facebook page and, again, be part of our online community here on Father Rob's YouTube channel.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Louis,
Thanks.
very
Thank
kindly.
you. Yeah.
God bless you, my brother. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Tough questions.